So as a student at Ohio State, I don't know that I got real excited about any of my books I ever got, but now that I'm an alumni and actually doing some farming, I do get excited about this book from Ohio State. This is the eFields Report. I'm Bart Johnson with the Ohio AgNet. Joining me is the extension educator from Darke County, Sam Custer, and Sam's here at Ohio State with the what's your meeting today that you've got?
We have our community engagement conference with the university, and then our extension annual conference starts tonight.
So with Sam being over here in Columbus, I thought what a great time to talk about what this book is that just came out here. It was mid-January. So what is the eFields Report?
Bart, the eFields Report is a documentation of all the on-farm research being done across the state of Ohio by extension educators.
So as I said, this is a pretty unique book with the second year that we've had it out. Let's talk about some of that research. Now this is all pretty much on farm for the most part with farmers in Ohio. This isn't small scale 15-foot rows. This is on actual farms, correct?
Correct. The majority of it is on-farm research. Or some of the food, agriculture, and biological engineering people have some from some work they've done at Farm Science Review. But even a majority of theirs has been on-farm research. So we're out here in whole field work.
And one of the things that's interesting about this is how quickly you get this data out.
Boy, you talk about pressure. There was some of these crops were harvested the second week of December, and this report came out February 9th. We were proofing the third week of December.
All right, so I want to talk about, I've highlighted some of these things as I went through that I find intriguing as a farmer. So nitrogen rate, a lot of different tests. Really what it's coming back, that the OSU calculator that's been out for several years, and this data's kind of proven that calculator is pretty accurate.
Yeah, and it was really interesting to see this year with the ample rain we got in most of the state, that might push that corn nitrogen rate calculator a little bit, but the numbers were right on. So we're really confident in what we've been sharing and advising people to do.
So one of the things that for a lot of corn farmers that, Randy Dowdy, one of the, world record holders of yield, he's pushing the 2x2 placement, but on both sides of the row. So you guys did a test here of 2x2x2. What did they find, and what are your initial thoughts as an extension agent?
Well, I think before you take a look at the document and make major management changes, make sure you look at this. A lot of this data is just single year data. Remember, the year we had this year was an unusual year with lots of rain. So keep that in mind. What we found this year is not a significant difference on going 2+2+2 versus our typical 2+2 application.
So if you've got a farmer that you work with in Darke County who's looking at this, what things would you want him to also consider, maybe before you make that big investment? Are there some other things that you'd want him to look at first in an operation?
Well, I think agronomically, the first thing you got to look at is your soil pH. Look at your nutrient levels. Then I'm going to say, if you want to try this out, let's try it out. Let me help you put together a randomized plot. So many times we do side-by-sides and we don't pick up the variance in our fields. At least in Darke County, we have a lot of variability in our fields. So let's put together a randomized plot and let me help you do the research so that you can prove it to yourself.
So if we're pushing those high yields, you got to have the basics first.
Yes. Yes.
So your population count, I thought was also interesting. And the fields that I walk when we do our crop tour. In my mind, higher populations, higher yield when we do all those yield checks. Kind of that range that I see when you look at seed guides is that 32 to 34,000 is probably going to catch most of your hybrids. Now, do you have a fixed ear? Do you have, there are some, but usually it's that 32 to 34. Research kind of shows that, but maybe not completely shows that with what's in here.
Right. So we've been doing corn seeding rates in Darke County for years now, and it variably over the period of time, 33,000 is probably the sweet spot for our county. When I looked economically this year with very, very good corn yields across our county, economically 30,000 came out the sweet spot on 3 different corn seeding rate trials. So keep that in mind. We may be able to boost yields, but still how the size of the check you take to the bank that I think is the most important.
Yeah, like I said, there's just some great research in here, that spreads across the state of Ohio that I think everyone will find very interesting. Fungicides. You've got a great story about fungicide this year, and the research shows, which makes some sense to me, if you've got yield or if you've got disease pressure, fungicides are going to pay. If you don't, it probably won't.
That's exactly right. So Frog Eye popped up in Darke County the week of July 4th, so we were able to identify that. And a lot of our farmers don't realize that one lesion in 25 foot of row in our soybeans and orange, as said, could affect yield. So we found that early, we detected it and sprayed for it and got a great economic return on that application. And what we're finding too, even our soybeans that are resistant to Frog Eye that have some lesion on, that still have lesions, actually the economic response to them was even higher than those that weren't resistant, which was new information for me. Across the state of Ohio, south of 36 probably was that cutoff. It paid for itself. North, if you're spraying a fungicide on fields that don't have Frog Eye, don't expect a return.
So, moral of that story is scout, scout, scout.
Scouting is extremely important.
And the last one I want to talk about, soybean seeding rates. Those numbers have been coming down, not only from, looks like university research, but, also seed companies are cranking that down. This data is really interesting. There's a lot of different locations that were studied and tested this year. What'd you find in this year, 2018?
2018 brought to us that there are no significant difference on our soybean seeding rates when it comes to yield. Across the board, many of our tests were 80,000 for our low numbers up to 220, 240,000, and no significant difference across that line. But remember the yield, the year we had almost every soybean germinated for us and was a viable plant at harvest. So we don't always have that. A lot of times we get an 80% germination rate, plant viability at harvest. So I'm not ready to tell everybody to go to 80,000. 130 seems to be the sweet spot in Darke County that we're going to push for. But in the future, we'll start looking at some of these lower seeding rates to see how low we can go on a good year.
So again, some great research, eFields report. It is available online, but the thing that I found most impressive, go to your extension office. It's free. You can
Yes.
pick up the book for free.
Yes, and remember, there's some eFields regional meetings coming out here in the next 6 weeks. Get with your local educator and get signed up for your local eFields meeting. We'll share this with you, more summary data and area research that's been put together to share with you. And if you're interested in doing research and being part of this work, contact your local educator to be part of it.
Sam Custer, Ag Educator, Darke County.
Thanks, Bart.
Appreciate your time.
Appreciate being with you.